So remember this stuff I put under the floor of the teeny house? I still got some left, so I'm putting it under the floor of the new closet for the hot water heater. So I made my base, just a 2x frame and 3/4 plywood on top. I was painting something, so I went ahead and put the paint on it. And I made a concrete form. So it'll be cinder block, cinder block, cinder block, cinder block. This will I'll just stake this down to the ground and dig out in the middle and pour the concrete. And now I'm going to do something a little unusual. I'm going to frame the roof because I want this thing to be modular. I want to be able to take it apart, put it in my truck and bring it out there and put it back together. And I think it's going to be easier to frame the roof directly on the base than on top of the walls, 1. And 2, I don't know the height yet because until I set the concrete, 2 cinder blocks, and set this, and then measure up to the bottom of the bathroom window, I don't know my maximum height. I don't want to intrude on that window. So, but I can build a roof structure. It'll just be separate. And I'm going to do that right now. Okay, simple frame, 1-inch deck boards. Right now they're just, the corners are just tacked. I'm going to have to brace them up a little better. And I have this one of the last few pieces of the Arrowlight camper. I know my neighbors will be glad to not look at this anymore. I'm going to cut it up and set it in the middle of that because I do want this thing insulated real well. The propane hot water heater that I put in the back of that mini house a long time ago has been working flawlessly. It has really been a treasure. It makes super hot water. It's simple as it can be. There's hardly any moving parts. It runs off of 2 D batteries, which the instructions called number 1 batteries. That took me a while. But it has a flaw, and it scared me. And the flaw is it's not freeze protected. So if the thing's not on and nobody's at the camp and the temperatures drop and I don't get over there to drain it, it's going to freeze and break, just like the one did at the foundry that I tried to use on the camper that I wasn't able to fix. I ended up buying a new one. So it's not acceptable. I can't be worried about temperatures, forget to drain it when I leave, and then the temperatures go down. So I'm switching to an electric hot water heater that will be on all year long and will never freeze, and we'll just let the propane one go. And this gives me the added benefit. If I insulate this little room and there's a hot water heater in it, the room's going to stay warm, and I can put my water pump in the room and some water filters in the room and not worrying about them freezing, because they also had to be drained because they're plastic and they were outside. So this is a lot of this is for peace of mind. We had hot water and it was working, but this is going to give me peace of mind. Time to cut some rafters. I don't want it to lean, I don't want the water to drain back that way toward the teeny house up in that corner. That'll be dumping on my foundation. And again, I don't want it to drain this way, so it'd be the same deal. It'd be draining up against the teeny house. But I don't want it to drain this way, so when you have the door open, water will be running on your head if you needed to open the door in the rain. So I think I'm just going to do a simple shed roof and have it drain this way, out toward the ditch. And it's really going to be back in the back. It's really not to be seen. So anyway, we'll do something real simple. I'll make the water drain from right to left, and it can be almost flat because it's going to be a full-length piece of metal. Okay, it's upside down. This is my ceiling. And luckily, this piece of foam still had the plywood veneer on it, so I was able to have something to really hold the screws. So when I turn it over, I should have a decent ceiling. And I'm going to put another layer of foam and then try to figure out my sheet metal. All right, I think that's a reasonable frame. I got it shot together with these little trim nails, which are not going to hold much. I'm going to go back and put screws everywhere. It's just easy to shoot it together. And I got to turn it over and fasten the plate up through the rafters, and also fasten the foam to this little piece of deadwood and these 2 rafters so it won't sag. And I'm going to put another piece of foam on top because I got more foam, and I might as well use it up, get rid of this nasty stuff. All right, doubler number 3 going in. No fasteners needed. Let's go look for some sheet metal. Actually, before we do that, let's do a little cleanup. Get rid of some of this CRAP. So these pieces of roofing have been up here since I built this structure. It's time I use them up. That one there is long enough for the top of the little hot water closet, and I may have enough to do a couple of the sides too. So I'm gonna, nobody's ever gonna use this stuff. Kind of dusty. It's got some holes in it. That's not good. I have to think about these holes. And I'm not sure what I cut it with. It's pretty gnarly. I don't know what I was using to cut this stuff with back then. All right, placed concrete yesterday. Let's knock these forms off and try to get this dirt halfway straightened out. It's pretty muddy. And set the blocks on here so I can get a measurement of how high I can make my little closet. So I got my block set and a straight edge and a measure up, and it looked like about 64 inches tall. No taller than that. Well, plus or minus an inch. If it cuts across the corner of that window, it doesn't make that much difference. 64. I'm gonna save that number in my phone. And I'm not gonna shovel any more dirt today because it's so wet. It's like, whew, it's like 3 times harder than it needs to be. Okay, back at the shop. The height of the floor plus the rafters together with a piece of sheet metal, it's gonna be right at 12 inches, a little less. So the 64, that's my total height that I can put above the blocks. Minus this 12 is 52. And if I use a 1x plate top and bottom, I just need to cut my studs 50 inches. That's easy enough. I'm trying to decide whether to cut them 1.5 inches, use 1.5 inch studs. That won't give me a whole lot of insulation, but it sure would be easy. Or, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think I'm leaning toward 1.5 inch studs, and I'll just get some good insulation in there. I got my top and bottom plates all cut. They're just 1.5 inches by 1 inch. And now I need to cut the corners, which are gonna be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches by 50 inches long. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think I'll put one on each side of the door. So I need 6 of them, 1.5 inches square by 50 inches long. We got my 6 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and now I need my regular studs, which are going to be 1 inch by 1.5 inches. I only need 5. It doesn't seem like very many. Let me go cut those, and I'm gonna start nailing this together. I'm gonna try to shoot this frame together with the gun. Sometimes with this pine, the grain is so contrary that you'll have everything lined up perfect and the nail will come out, try to get you. So I'm gonna try. If not, I'll have to screw it, and if I screw it, I'll probably have to drill for each one, for the same reason the pine's got this crazy grain. It's hard to get things to go in straight. Let's give it a shot. Okay, all 4 walls shot together, and yes, the nails did go crazy in a couple of spots. I'll have to grind those off. Now I'm ready to assemble, put the wall framing on the deck, and these are gonna be screwed because when I get ready to move it to the country, I'm gonna take it all apart because it's gonna be too heavy for me. So it's gonna be a modular thing. Let me find some screws and we're gonna screw it together. First wall up, second wall ready. Okay, all our little walls are up, and I went to Home Depot and bought 3 sheets, new sheets of 1/2 inch treated plywood. And I'm gonna wrap the whole thing with plywood. Now this side and this side, which are jammed up tight to the original part of the camper, I'm probably just gonna paint the treated plywood because it won't see sun and it really won't see any weather at all. This side and the other side, I'm gonna put some sort of sheet metal over, kind of halfway match the mid-century redneck motif I got going over there. And it will see weather, so we'll minimize our long-term maintenance by covering it up. Anyway, man, this stuff weighs a ton. I'm gonna start cutting. Okay, first piece of plywood is up. Got 3 screws in the bottom. They're gonna come out when I go to move it. All the rest of the screws are gonna stay. And this sheet of plywood is gonna stay with this back stud wall. And of course, a little piece of plywood up there. I kind of wish I would have put a slope on the top of that plywood, but I didn't. So I'm gonna screw the heck out of it. Every stud's gonna get screws. And this little box is gonna be very rigid in spite of the little scantling of the studs. Okay, the back is screwed. I'm gonna put this end on now. I got it cut. Now I can screw it to this stud, but not this stud, or I won't be able to get it apart for shipping. And I can't screw it down here, even temporary, like I did here, because if I put some sort of siding over it, when I go to take it apart, I won't be able to get to them. So yeah, interesting challenges here. So the plywood is on their respective sides, and now I would like to put the roof on it because this next piece of plywood should overlap the roof framing, and I don't know if I can lift it. And my buddy Paul was just here talking to me, and he went back to work. I should have asked him to help me, but let's see what I can do. So we're all plywooded up. We have a box, and on the inside corners, I'm putting some strips of 1/2 inch scrap that I ripped up so that I'm making an inside corner, so when I put whatever surface I'm gonna put on this wall, I have something to nail it to or screw it to. Plywood's not ideal, but I got it. Hate to throw it in the garbage if I have it. And I'm gonna foam the interior of this thing for temperature insulation. Since I'm not gonna put sheet metal or any kind of siding on the back and the right side, I got this flashing, I think it's called Z flashing. It goes behind the upper sheet of plywood and over the bottom sheet of plywood. So whatever rain coming down the wall, you can't get behind that bottom sheet. Now the front and the side, I'm gonna put some kind of siding on it, so I didn't have to put it there, but I put it there anyway because I bought a stick. So this side and the back is actually ready for paint, but it's super wet because, you know, when you get that treated stuff, they don't dry it after they treat it. So I'll probably give it a week or so to dry before I put some paint on it. The front, I'll start thinking about how I'm going to do a door and trim that. And the inside, I'm getting ready to put some foam. This is, I promise, the last of the foam from the camper that I tore down to make the trailer for the teeny house. It's 1 inch thick with a piece of plywood on both sides of veneer. But okay, no, there's no more of it. Anyway, I've used it up. I don't have enough for this side. That's okay. And I realize I'm making a mistake. I've got to remove this stuff to get to the screws that are holding the walls to the ceiling and the walls to the deck, so I can disassemble it to move it. Well, this, of course, I decided to move it in one piece. And in that case, I didn't put enough screws because I just put a couple to hold it together. So that's a little disappointing. I was thinking I was making progress, but anyway, I'll have to label them. They'll still fit even if I take them out. Dang it. I'm moving in one. This thing's pretty heavy. I better not plan on doing that. And I'm not even through. I don't even have a door yet or siding on these sides. Okay. So I went ahead and put plywood on the roof. I was not sure if I was going to do that or not because the sheet metal doesn't need plywood. It could go from joist to joist. But in the next couple of weeks before I put the sheet metal on it, this would be nice. Keep the water out and let it dry out some. So yeah, it's plywooded. So now the roof part is just going to be a little bit heavier. So it's a new day. Foam. I realize either I'm going to cut them and fit them here and then have to take them down and put them back at the country, or I'm going to have to cut them and fit them at the country where I'm working outside, I'm working in the dirt, I don't have a table saw, I don't have electricity, I got to use a generator. So, you know, this is going to be by far the less of the two evils. Now, I did mark like this column and this column, they're within 1/8 of an inch of each other, so I'll mark those so I can keep them separate. This is totally different than anything else. This one's different than anything else. Now, these two are close, so I marked this one with a spray paint. So yeah, be all right if I can get them out without breaking. Some of them are really jammed in there. All right, I'm gonna cut. I got 3 more wall panels to do. I'm going to the white foam because that's what I have, and then I got to design a door and fill the door with foam and make a jamb and try to keep it, you know, well, it's going to be weatherproof, but semi-insulated. All right, that was so much easier than messing with these old random squares. So that's done. That's 2 layers of 3/4. That flushes out just right, actually. Now I'm going to put some 1/4 inch paneling in here, just whatever plywood I have, and I'm going to have to take it out. So I'll put like maybe 1 or 2 screws in each sheet just to hold it in place. And it's a chance for me to use up a bunch of random stuff I've had in my plywood rack. And my old plywood rack, I probably wouldn't have been able to get my hands on it, but the new plywood rack, much better. But we'll start out with these, and maybe I wanted to buy a sheet, but I might have to. We'll see. Didn't have enough scraps to complete it. I'll have to buy a sheet, but at least now the scraps that I have from the new sheet will all match, and they won't be decades of differences between them. Yeah, I kind of like this. Kind of reminds me of Mr. Gaddy's Pizza. Okay, we have a door jamb put together with 5/4 treated, look like some old deck. And the sill is some cypress, a new piece of cypress. And now I'm making the door frame with this redwood. And I'm gonna put cypress on the face of it, foam in the middle, and probably plywood on the back. So right now I gotta rip these to the right width, which I think will just be 1.5 inches. That'll be 2 layers of that white foam. And then the siding go on the front and the plywood will go on the back. And it'll end up being 1.5 inches, 2.5, a little less than 3 inches thick. That shouldn't be a problem. When you have a thick door though, you can't make it too tight because it needs room to swing in and out. So my stop is gonna have to be kind of wide to capture some sort of weatherproofing and to make sure that there's no crack when the door is shut. And this is nailed, but I got it clamped because it had a real bad bow in it. So the clamps are under a lot of pressure. But once the glue dries, oh, I missed a couple nails. But once the glue dries, we'll be all right. So this is where we are. The door jamb is clamped to the table and it's clamped square. They're not automatically square. You got to push them one way or the other. And the door frame is set on some temporary door stops, and it is screwed to the jamb, and the screws are in the bottom so that after I put the skin on the door, I'll be able to get the screws out. And this way, even though I'm using a bunch of old funky wood, the door should fit the frame because I'm making it in place. And it's gonna be a little bit different. Usually doors are flush with this part of the jamb and not the trim, but I'm gonna use some 1-inch boards on the outside of the door frame, so they're gonna flush out, which is gonna make it easier for me to put hinges. I can just put hinges on the face, and I get another overlap here, and then also at the door stop, so I can make it more weather tight. So I'm gonna go get some old cypress boards, and we're gonna nail them on there. Look at this beautiful board. Unfortunately, it's not long enough to do 3 cuts, which would do the whole panel with this one board. So I can get 2 cuts out of this wider one, and then 1 cut out of the narrower one. Now this is from that same house that all my 2x cypress came from. And you can see it used to be a board and batten because the batten protected the board from getting weathered so much. And this house was not in a good neighborhood, so there's a pretty good chance that this was the outside sheeting and the inside sheeting. Pretty good chance that there was no sheetrock in this house from that time period and from that neighborhood. Yeah, they look pretty rough on the outside, but on the inside they're good as new. Now they're quite a bit thicker than 1 inch, so I think I'm gonna pass them through the thickness planer a couple times on the backside to get this more flush. Otherwise I'm gonna have trouble with my hinges, and I don't want this sticking out to catch water. So yeah, we're gonna bring them down to 1 inch, I think. So the door skinned, glued together. Cleaned up the top and the bottom edge. I put a bevel on this bottom edge to help deflect the water, and I kind of like the look of it now, but it's going to be out in the weather. It'll absorb a huge amount of water and swell up, and the door gets stuck. So I'm gonna have to paint it real well, seal it up. I got it. I like it where it is. I have the marks of where the frame is, so when I shoot the gun nails, maybe I'll hit most of them in the right spot. Okay, it's good. I'm gonna take it off, put some glue on the frame, and shoot it into place. And then flip it over and unscrew those temporary screws, and it should come out in one piece. That's the plan. Pretty amazing, pretty amazing. I took out the screws that were holding the door frame into the jamb, and the jamb lifted right off. And I didn't miss one single gun nail, and I shot a bunch of them. So that's kind of amazing. So before I go any farther, I'm gonna prime the inside of this to kind of control moisture, and turn it over and prime and paint the face side too. Might be able to do both of those at one time. So I painted the plywood that's going to go on the back of the door. This is part of the sheet that I purchased. And I primed and caulked and painted the inside of the door and the door frame. And I'm doing this because this is basically a big old wide slab of wood. And if it absorbs much moisture, the door is going to jam and be hard to open. So I'm trying to seal it up as best I can. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to put the foam in it and staple the top on the back. It needs about 30 minutes to kind of dry a little better than it is now. Okay, we've got 2 layers of foam, super tight fit. So that's 1.5 inches. I don't know what the R value would be. Oh, no, I got it cut off. Anyway, I'm going to put the back and staple it and then prime the back because this is the inside. Prime this side and flip it over and wire brush the distressed wood and start priming and caulking it. So the door has a coated primer, and I'm gonna come back and caulk all the little black spots you see so that when I put my paint on it, it'll be 100%, what's the word? It'll seal everything up. There won't be cracks in it where moisture can get, make the wood expand and make the door stick. We're gonna seal it up really good. The door with a lot of caulk and first coat of finish paint. It's looking pretty good. Pretty good. Got a few more spots that I want to caulk. I don't want any wood exposed. Like right there, I'm going to seal all that up. I don't want water getting in here at all. Yeah, right here. A couple spots, not too bad. I think I'm going about as far as I can go as far as pre-building this thing. So I'm going to take off the interior paneling. I got it all finished and I got all the pieces cut. Label them, lay them out on a workbench and put a coat of paint on them. I'm going to put a coat of paint on the back, sand it a little bit, and that far side. It's supposed to rain the next 3 days, so it'd be good to have it in the shop. I'll be able to do something. As far as fitting the door, if I fit it now and go install it, I'll probably have to refit it. The siding, the sheet metal that's going to go on these 2 sides is so easy. There's no sense in pre-doing it. And the roof, I can't really do the roof until I do the siding. So yeah, I'm going to take it all down and mark these panels, paint them all, and paint the back and the side. And then it'll be ready to carry out to the country because the foundation's done. This end is unscrewed and it's loose. I'm gonna take it off first because then I can slide the roof off this end instead of trying to lift it up over the top, which is kind of difficult. I think it'll be easier to slide it. So if I get this end off, undo all the screws for the roof, I'll be able to get it off relatively easily. It's been a marathon painting day. I got another coat on the base. I got a coat on both sides of all the 1/4-inch plywood that goes on the interior. Might not have had to, but this stuff's probably not weather resistant at all, so I figured it wouldn't hurt. I got a coat on the end wall, the exterior end wall, and a coat on the exterior back wall, and a coat on both sides of the door. And could have been at the country all day long. I had a yard pass. The weatherman said 90% chance of rain. And now it's almost 2 o'clock and the clouds are finally rolling in. I could have had a nice day at the country. Oh well. Okay, putting it back together in the country. I I'm putting it on some 2x6s so I can work on it and then slide it back, because the bricks are loose and they'll tumble over if I try to slide it on the bricks. But I gotta raise this. I gotta raise the water thing, which is no problem. I just kind of forgot. Earlier, I had mentioned that the hot water heater gave me a scare, the propane hot water heater. Well, we got freeze in Baton Rouge, and it kind of caught me off guard. You know, this is new, and I forgot about draining the water tank. And the temperature here, we're 80 miles to the northeast of Baton Rouge, can vary quite a bit. You know, it can be 10 degrees difference at home, and I was sure that after 1 month of use that I had lost another propane hot water heater, but I got lucky, nothing broke. So yeah, that's no way to live, having to worry about freezing and having to worry about draining things, and my memory's not that good. So this is going to be well worth the effort to get this hot water heater swapped out for an electric one. Now, I didn't film scooting back the closet on the bricks on the 2x6, but it turned out to be a lot dicier than I had anticipated. The bricks really wanted to fall over and move, and ended up using a bottle jack and jacking the little closet and moving it just a couple inches at a time, and then jacking the other end and scooting it. It was pretty intimidating, because this box is getting pretty doggone heavy, and like I said, the bricks are loose, everything wanted to move, but I finally got it where I wanted it, and then one corner at a time, I picked up the weight of the closet and got the bricks as straight as I could with my wonky concrete in the ground, and now it's all good. Okay, exterior of the closet is totally covered with sheet metal. I'm gonna need some corner trims, not just to keep the water out, but these edges are, well, this factory edge, this is not so bad, but this edge over here I cut, and it's razor sharp. And I worked with this stuff for 2 full days without cutting myself, but on the very last sheet, I made up for lost time. I got a good one on my thumb. But anyway, sheet metal's done. I'm gonna lower it. I'm gonna shove it back where it goes. It needs to go back a couple of inches, and then get these 2x6s out. I don't have termite shields yet, but I can lift it up a little bit with a jack and slide them under there. And then put the interior paneling in, and then hang the door. And that'd be it, I think. Oh no, I gotta put the roof on. What am I thinking? I need to do that before I shove it back. That's the next step. Okay, we got sheet metal on the outside, got sheet metal on the roof, got flashing done. I got it back down on the blocks, got it scooted around and leveled up. My concrete pads didn't exactly come out in the right spot, but that's okay. Now what I need to do is put all this plywood back where it used to be and nail it. All the foam went back pretty nicely, so now maybe this will go back as nice. And then hang the door. I might hang the door tomorrow. I'm kind of whooped. The door's in the hole. It's kind of a tight fit. I had to rack the frame a little bit, unscrew it, move it over. And I had to plane on the edges of the door a little bit. I'll probably have to do that some more. But I got it wedged up tight because it's going to sag a little bit. And I'm going to screw the hinges on. And then open it up and see what it looks like. And always keep on planing. So I found some corner trim at the foundry, put it up, which hides these sharp edges. And with that, I'm gonna call it good. It's kind of a tight fit, but I'm okay with that. And I redid the wiring because the wire that I cut too short, so I got a splice here and then some 10 gauged here. And now the hot water heater is working. It is in service, and the propane hot water heater is turned off, and life is good. And eventually I'm going to put the water pump, which is sitting in the mud, in here, and a filter of some sorts. Although the water's crystal clear, I'm sure a little filter won't hurt. Yep, okay, all right, well, thanks for watching. This little this little hack is done.